Hey everybody, so after listening to all of the excerpts, I decided to focus on Symphony Number 1 in E flat along with the Jupiter like everybody else. I actually found it kind of difficult to identify the melodic fragment at first between all of the listening excerpts, but I think that's because I kind of listened to everything backwards. Once I re-listened to the plain chant video, I was able to identify the melodic fragment, and it like smacks you right in the face in Jupiter. So, a plain chant, it's just a four-note theme, and I just identified it in my head as do, re, fa, mi. And in my head, I hear Jupiter play after that with all the woodwind interludes there. So in the Jupiter, it seems like the play chant was kind of played with in a theme and variation style. However, each theme was presented in counterpoint or fugal writing. And then there's a lot of call and response from the theme, the bum, 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 bum. And then there's a lot of woodwind interlude responses. So, bum, 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 whatever the style was. And then, throughout the piece, there's, I think, 4 or 5 themes which either changed key, changed tonality, or changed response style. So I thought that was kind of interesting in the Jupiter. It's also a recognizable piece, so I actually recognize it from listening to classical music in the past. In Symphony Number 1, E flat, the plain chant is not presented until the French horn introduces it. So you're getting kind of the rhythmic stimulation of the piece, and then you're getting the plain chant kind of descanted over the entire thing. So, I mean, the piece starts out, you can clearly hear that the piece is in 2/4, but it has kind of a triple feel because of the 16th note triplets, I think. However, the meter is pretty consistent because of the low strings, which have that constant 8th note accompaniment. So the piece is kind of layered. We're starting with the 16th note triplets and the upper strings and woodwinds, and then you're adding in the lower strings and lower brass 8th note accompaniment, and then you're kind of I just imagine in my head like the horns kind of floating over everyone else with the plain chant 4-note melody. So the movement is very rhythmically repetitive, but it definitely plays with tone color and timbre development. So the rhythms never really change, but the tonality does, and so does the timbre of the instruments within the different dynamics that they're playing. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And compared to Jupiter, this movement of his first symphony just seems very robotic, whereas Jupiter seemed more playful, and I guess final because it is the finale of the entire symphony, whereas the Andante, the Symphony Number 1, is not the wrap up of the piece. So now going to the Enlightenment video, I think that my students would find this video confusing at first because I found it a little confusing at first. But after explanation, they might find it interesting to dissect a piece that we're playing in class. So I think that obviously the audio visual representation can definitely be seen throughout the National Core Art Standards, because I feel like it's hitting all 4 anchor standards. I think in like my class, I could definitely incorporate visual representation, even if it's not electronic, through drawing what my students hear without actually seeing music, and also they can dissect audio representations of the piece by either picking out melodic fragments that they find are important to telling the story of the piece, and they can actually implement them into electronic composition software, and then we can play each individual section's pieces together and see if it tells the same story. They would be creating their own pieces, they would be performing their own pieces, and they're synthesizing their musical intuition and their musical knowledge to create something new, which is the response in the core art standards. And then they're connecting, style and interdisciplinary skills to create something new also. So it definitely hits all of the anchor standards, and I think that it will definitely enforce students' creative side, and also looking beyond the sheet music. So that's super important. I hope my reflection was interesting, and thank you for listening.